Hey CNC crew, this is Mr. Pratt here with your week 5 introduction as far as what activities you will have to complete for the week. And just before I go into this week's activities, I do want to say a couple things. One, your Aspire files, learning through that software. Obviously, I prefer to do that face to face, but overall, I thought you guys did an awesome job. Obviously, we might have had a few hiccups, here and there, but overall, you guys did a fantastic job as to, trying to learn that on your own. I know can be a difficult task, but you all definitely rose to the challenge there. So kudos to all of you. The other thing I have to say was those of you that are seniors, I just want to remind you that this is your last week with us, and so I just want to make sure that you know that going forward that you needed 85% or better in order to receive satisfactory. But I also want to make sure that you know that don't hesitate to stay in touch. I'm always here to lend a hand if you need anything. And I hope nothing but the best for all of you. But before we get to that point, let's look at what this week's activities are going to look like. So the first thing that I wanted to dive into this week was, how can I further my education in design thinking? So we've talked a lot about designing and kind of problem solving and creating solutions to problems. And I want to take a little step back from the actual problem solving and learn how can we further our education in this idea of design thinking. And so there's a school, actually it's part of Stanford, called D School, Design School, created by the founder and CEO of IDEO, and that's David Kelly. And so I've provided a link for you, and you're going to give us kind of a snapshot as to what is D School. It's pretty interesting topics and concepts that are discussed in this program, and so I want all of you to take a chance to explore this program, and maybe you find it interesting, maybe you don't, but it gives us at least a snapshot as to what you believe the D School is and what they have to offer. And so you'll see that is a discussion post for you to create. This can be a PowerPoint snapshot. It could be just a description, a paragraph, whatever you think would be the most effective to create this understanding of what is the D School or Design School as part of Stanford. And then after that, we're going to look at our final project for the course. And for those of you that are underclassmen, this does not mean that after this week you are done this class. We have other things that we're going to throw in to the mix. But I think this is our last opportunity as a whole class to kind of bring our ideas together. And so your final project is going to be the idea of bringing back game night. I don't know how many of you as a child or kids played with a toy, or you had a special game that you played with your family. But in a time where we're at home a lot, it's kind of nice to be able to whip out a board game or a deck of cards and be able to play a game with your family and friends. So now's the time where we're going to create our own game. And so I provided a design brief for you, a brief description, give you some background information, a link as to how we create a marketable toy or game, and then some of the activities that go with that. And so our activities for this week that go with our final project are discussion boards. There are 3 of them. The first one is what makes a toy or game worth designing. And so, like I said, I want you to think back to, when, toys or games were not just on a computer, your childhood, hopefully you played with a toy or a game that still has meaning to you. And so I want you to think back to what made that so special. And this is going to help you to kind of help figure out what kind of game or toy you could possibly create in our CNC class. Obviously, everything is always hypothetically speaking. And then after that discussion, you're going to have another one called your game night or toy proposal. And this is where you're going to give us all an idea of what is your toy or what is your game I'm not asking you to create the actual game at this point, but just the idea. And so, this is where you're kind of giving your sales pitch. What makes your game or your toy special? What would make it to be marketable? If I went on Amazon and tried to do a search, am I going to find your toy or your game? And so this is where you're going to provide that information to the rest of the class, and we're going to provide feedback to you and our thoughts and how you might be able to improve it, or what we really liked about your game or your toy. And then our last part of this week's activity is going to be creating a logo. So it's just like everything we have and buy these days, there's always that iconic logo that goes with it. I think about the Monopoly game and the little guy with the monocle, and so that's pretty iconic, right? So I want you to create a logo for your game or your toy that maybe it's part of the packaging, maybe it's part of the actual board game if that's something of interest to you. But this is where we're going to end up for the week, and so 4 activities for you to complete. And I want to make sure that you take your time as you complete these. Now, if you notice as you look at each of the activities, that the activities are going to be due on Tuesday, May 26th, instead of the typical Monday at 7:59 a.m. And the reason being is because Monday, the 25th, is a holiday. We do not have school, and so you are not required to complete any schoolwork. Now, as always, I try to make sure that the amount of time you spend on these activities matches up to that 45 minutes per day. And so the 4 activities should take you the entire week to complete if you put the thought and time that's needed in order to be successful. So as always, if you have any questions, you can reach out through Schoology Message. I know some of you have in the past. I'm also available through our Zoom office hours, which are on Thursdays. And if you still can't get a hold of me, there's always email as well. And so just want to make sure that you understand that I'm here to help and guide you in any way I can. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys have to provide in this week's discussions. I think this is a neat project, a neat topic to discuss, and the idea of furthering our design thinking education. So as always, like I said, have any questions, feel free to give me a shout out. All right. Thanks, guys.